So I'd like to speak today about subjective present time, and I'd like to propose a new answer to this old question. And you see, now we are in the realm of time research. It's really a very old field, which includes also a lot of philosophical questions, like what is time? It's actually, the question is more than 2,500 years old. Also, the questions like, does time flow? And if yes, where does it flow? What is the role of mind in time flow? And one of the questions is, what is subjective present time? As far as I remember, the first time this question was posed by a German physiologist, Höring, in 1868, so more than 100 years ago. That's why this question is really old. And looking at this question, we face also a set of other questions. What is subjective present time? How long lasts subjective present time? What is duration? Whether the subjective present time duration is constant or dynamic, and whether there are some regularities. Already, Mark Wittmann in his talk has presented some answers how one examines the duration of subjective present time. I'd like just to show here that there are a lot of very famous names who propose a view or the concept on what is time. William James, also Stern, which is quite sympathetic for me. William Stern is his idea of in German psychische Präsenzzeit. He interprets subject to present as a kind of crossing point between the external and internal world. That's a point where this external and internal world meet each other. Also, you may find works by Koffka and by French researcher Paul Fraisse. And of course, the group around Ernst Pöppel from Munich, it's quite a big group. But what is interesting that you may go through the answers, for instance, on the question, what is the duration, subject to present time, and you will find different answers. Question is the same, answers are different. I will not go into the details, but look, just for instance, for James, it is a variable duration from 2,000ths of second and up to 12,000, up to 12 seconds. Yeah. For instance, for Fraisse, it is up to 5 seconds. But in fact, he has used memory task for his experimental procedure. For John Michon, it is about 7-8 seconds. For Richard Bloch, it is 5 seconds. For Ernst Pöppel, it's about 3 seconds, and it is quite a constant parameter. He has used a lot of quite interesting procedures like Necker cube perception, acoustic stimuli, cuba, and so. But summarizing, what I'd like to say that this different answers on the same question rather point to the problem which we have facing this question, what is subject to present time? On one hand, we have really different definitions, or sometimes even absence of definitions of subject to present time. I will explain you later why we actually do not have a proper definition of what is subject to present time. And also, if you look at the other authors, they rely on different experimental procedures for measuring a subject to present time duration. And what is negative in my at least opinion, in these procedures, a researcher usually relies on some external criteria for defining what is the subject to present time. For instance, you have seen today this example with metronome, where when this tick-tock is integrated into one tick-tock, or it is not any longer integrated, or you can take the other procedures, for instance, with Necker cube changing perspective. or you can take also experimental procedure proposed by Paul Fraisse, and you will see that always in these cases, researcher runs this measure, defines the duration subject to present time. But what we do really forget, in my opinion, we forget to ask our subject whether our subject agrees that it is his or it is her subject to present time. The researcher usually confirms his model, his theory, but what I believe we are lacking is this agreement of subjects that it was his or her subject to present time. Also, what I'd like to stress that most of experimental procedures used for definition of duration of subject to present time lack on adequate correspondence to the features of time flow. Our experience of time flow is often spontaneous, but we don't see it in our experimental procedures. Our experience of time flow is continuous, actually, at least in the normal state, yeah, without impact of drugs and so on. It is dynamic. I'm sure every one of you can give a lot of examples of this dynamicity. Yeah? It is also does not. Time flow experience does not require special stimuli. So you don't need any special stimuli to have this experience of time flow. Why are we using special stimuli for examining duration subject to present time? And as I told you already, often in our procedures, we rely on certain external criteria set by researcher and often not corresponding to the experience of subject. So let us come back to the question, what is subject to present time? Look, in this formulation, it is quite hard to answer this question, because it is a version of the question, what is time? And the question, what is time, is more than 2,500 years old. It starts from Aristotle, yeah? So my approach is a little bit different. I asked, okay, we cannot possibly answer, at least, okay, we can, but not in this procedure, yeah? We will not answer this question, what is time, in this procedure. So we approach from different perspective this problem. So we ask the simpler question, what makes the borders of subject to present time? So what and how one creates the borders of subject to present time? And after we answer this question, we may define what is subject to present time. It will be everything what is between these borders. And of course, then we can answer the questions about duration of subject to present time, and we can answer the question about regularities in dynamic of subject present time, and so on. So what are we doing? What is my method for answering this question? First of all, we agree that there is this subjective experience of time flow and present exists independently of every theoretical paradigm. It's a kind of phenomenological approach. We forget everything about theory, about time we know, and we just rely on the fact that there is experience of time flow, and that is what we need. It is subjective experience, and it is spontaneous experience. It can be quite dynamic, and so on. So where we will look for the border of subject to present time is the internal, immediately given subjective experience. We will look for it in the flow of consciousness. And initial hypothesis was that the stream of consciousness already include some special element of consciousness or a special kind of experience, which is perceived by a person as a border subject to present time. So the method, briefly to describe, I'm skipping some technical details. The method is just to ask person to pay attention to the actual experience of time flow. So we prepare special instruction for it. And we ask this person just follow this flow of consciousness, flow of experience. And then we ask, in case you experience the end of subject to present time, in case you experience the end of present time, just press the button. And this pressure means the end of actual present time and the beginning of the next present time. So we go along with this continuity feature of time flow. Of course, each pressure on the bottom is registered by the computer. And so we get also the physical marks or the points on the physical line. But they are less interesting for us at this stage. Such method actually goes along with such features of time experience like continuity, spontaneity, dynamics, involuntary. Involuntary in the sense that you don't need anything external for experience time. So here is the instruction. I promise I will not go through the whole extraction. Actually, I used in my studies mostly instruction written in German. This translation, I hope it is done well enough. If somebody is interested, I can send it just via email or some other way. So idea is in this instruction really to drive attention to the experience of time flow. And then when this experience that present time is over, is in consciousness, just press the button. And follow again this flow of consciousness, and then again, if you have this experience, press the button. So you have one pressing on the button, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. So beginning with this question, it was actually quite long ago. I started my first study with experts. In general, I'm skipping some details, but it was just instruction given to the subject how to measure subject to present time. Then they accomplished measure about 10-12 minutes, and then I ran introspection. For me was open question. For me was the question to clarify what induces people to press on the button. At which moment they have this experience in their flow of consciousness that it is the end of subject to present. Look, just you may be critical at this moment, because if you think, oh my God, it's at every moment. No, it's not at every moment. Just believe me, if you sit in front of computer, I mean, not in front of a computer, you have this in German Antwort box, yeah, the mouse where you press the button. You will wait certain way, and then you will press this button, and then again and again. So I ask the experts, what induced you to press the button? Or in German, was hat Sie veranlasst, die Taste zu drücken? Yeah. And the third question, whether it was given to awareness from the very beginning, or how you find out this criteria. And then in the last question, I ask them schematically to describe the sequence of actions or this experience in the flow of consciousness which corresponds to your measurement of a subject to present time. In this study, I asked to participate only experts that were four professors from Munich University and two docents, associated professors in English, and four diploma psychologists. And what the results show that there is a specific form of experience in flow of consciousness, which is perceived as a border of subject to present time. What do you mean, or what do I mean when I say specific, or how describe it the experts? They say the specific in the sense that if you experience it once or two, three, four times, you will recognize it in your flow of consciousness. It makes no difficulty for you any longer, and you can rely on this experience. So this element of experience is quite distinguishable from other elements of consciousness. Usually you skip over this element in everyday experience. You don't notice it. It is like, if you'd like to compare it with this saccadic blindness. None of us perceives this saccadic blindness, but also the same as with this special experience in flow of consciousness. Moreover, this element in flow of consciousness is unpredictable. You begin to measure your subject to present time, but you never know when you press the button next time. It is your subject of present time. You are living through. But at one moment, you have this special experience. You have this feeling, okay, this present time moment is over. I press the button. And then the next one starts. So it is unexpected. At least it is unexpected for participants. And the experts describe it also as awareness of change in flow of visual pictures. What does it mean? It means that you are possibly following some visual pictures, and when you judge that this change of pictures was essential enough, the theme was changed or something else essential was changed, you press the button. Or they describe it as a specific bodily feeling. Yes, something changing in your feeling, in your body. You say, possibly you will say, my God, that's so different criteria, how you can distinguish and how you can say that it's one and the same. It is the same in the sense that it is always has a kind of reflection. What was before? Was the change essential or not? And the fifth question, as you remember in my introspection, was would you draw the structure, how you experience this process of measurement of subject to present time? And if we collect the whole data from the participants from this study, we have the following picture. Let us agree that that is the physical timeline. We need it just for our scheme. And here is the border of subject to present time. I call it experience of type B. Here is again the subject to present time border, experience type B. And in between, everything what is in between is, I call it body of subject to present time or experience of type A. What is interesting, during the experience of subject to present time, your intention is always on the world of things, Dingenwelt, yeah, in Husserlian sense. It is always on something external. At the border, your intention is turned back to yourself. Turned back in the sense that you are you are running a kind of censorship of your thoughts, of your visual pictures, at least of your feeling, your bodily feeling. So, and the experts who told me that, okay, it was a kind of mind wandering. I don't know. I have thought about nothing, but then appears a kind of bodily impulse which turns me back to myself. I'm becoming here and now. That is this point where you meet yourself is again the border of subject to present time. And so it repeats again and again. Of course, it is not enough to have an answer on the question, what is subject to present time? So I will combine now the second and the third studies I run. The second study was with Ukrainian subjects from Kyiv. The third study was with subjects from Zurich, German-speaking students from Zurich University, yeah, Zurich University. The goal of this study was just to define the properties of A and B elements of the stream of consciousness. So we have defined that the border is given as a B element in stream of consciousness, and the body of subject to present is given as A element in flow of consciousness. But what are the properties of this A and B elements? Speaking with experts from the first study, arose the idea that most probably the B element is a kind of transitive part, which we know from the phenomenological psychology and from phenomenology. So, idea was the following one that subject to present time is built of two qualitatively different elements. Which are experienced in stream of consciousness. The B element is a transitive part, and A element is a substantive part of consciousness flow. I'm sure that you know how to describe the transitive and substantive parts. You may find it in publications by William James, of course by Edmund Husserl. But what was the most useful for my case, the book proposed by Lin Chotin. He has developed a kind of table listing the properties. Here on the left part, you see the descriptions or properties of transitive element, and on the right hand side you see the properties of substantive element. So it is quite it is quite easy to transform this characteristics to Likert scales, like, and so we develop this transitive substantive difference scale. Actually, we have used these descriptions and use them as a poles in this on the scale. So in the second study, we have used the same method, the same instruction given to the subject, but the subjects were from Kyiv, from Ukraine. So instruction, then measurement of subject to present time, about 12 minutes. It is enough, just 12 minutes, for getting this experience, for knowing when you press the button, what do you feel at this moment. Then we run again the same introspection. We add just one more question, but it doesn't matter now, to the introspection. And then we asked our subjects to evaluate the properties of A and B elements of the stream of consciousness at this transitive substantive difference scale. The subjects were 33 students and a few PhD students, mostly female. Average age is 21. All of them were sitting in the armchair with closed eyes. It's a technical detail, but it's also important under certain conditions. So what are the results? So they pushed the bottom when again this bodily feeling arises. It arises involuntarily, just as kind of internal impulse. The same what was reported by German experts, actually. Or involuntary censorship of thoughts. I'm thinking about something, and then I noted that I have changed the path of my thoughts. That is the end of subject to present time. Or a change of internal picture. Internal in the sense that they were sitting with closed eyes, some kind of visual picture. If it has changed, essentially, it is the end of subject to present time. And involuntary reflection of own state. It means, again, if you are thinking about nothing, so-called empty mind, yeah, or so-called empty consciousness, yeah, and then involuntary you came back to yourself, you make a very brief check of your state. Okay, in Kyiv it was laboratory a little bit differently. So in 5% of the cases, externally stimuli interrupted the flow of thoughts and were also used as border of subject to present time. So, but now it is not our goal to discuss it. So look, here I have organized already the scale in the way that on the left-hand side you see a transitive element of consciousness, and on the right-hand side of the scale you see the substantive element of consciousness. So everything what is bigger than zero is characteristic that corresponds to the substantive element of consciousness. Everything what is to the negative part of the scale is a transitive characteristic, yeah, or characteristic of transitive element. And as you see here are A element and B element, and you see A element is usually on the right hand side of the scale, and B element is on the left hand side of the scale. And this continuation almost on that scale was not effective enough, but actually on 12 scales out of 13 you get the positive results, in the sense that the subject clearly distinguish the body of subject to present time as A element or as a substantive element. It is German in the Dingenwelt zu sein, yeah, being in the world of things. And the body and the border of subject to present time, you are turning back at this If you look at this scales, it is like Russia sensual, intuitive, experience is always similar to itself, and it's not always, I mean, it's repeating, and so on. You may look also from the perspective of some pathological deviation. What do you see here also in some scales? It's a kind of demarcation between internal and external world. Verbally inexpressible, verbally expressible, undefined and precise, or derivated from feelings, derivated from thoughts. It is always indivisible in itself, or it is divisible in itself. Usually things in the world are divisible in itself, and so on. So because of this discrepancy between A and B elements, we may conclude that subject to present time consists of two qualitatively different elements of consciousness, transitive and substantive one. Of course, it is not enough because, look, in this scale, we let subject to judge together A and B elements. That's why I run the next experiment with German-speaking students from the Zurich University. 18 students, average age is 26.7. The average age is a little bit higher because the Swiss students begin or start their university education a little bit later. The procedure was the same, actually, so that's why I'm skipping it. Okay, there were some additional phases in the experiment, but they are not essential for our discussion now. And in this experiment, I have asked them to judge only the B element. So they are not judging A element. What was interesting for me to see whether the properties of B elements, the properties of border, of subject to present time, remains the same or correspond to the transitive element of consciousness if it is only judgment of B element. And as you see, the B element is judged also in negative part of the scale, and we may conclude that subject to present time is an integrated segment of experience that appears in stream of consciousness, and it is limited by appearance of two sequential perceivable transitive elements. I'd like just to add a few words about integration. Look, if you go through the concepts of subject to present time, for instance, by Ernst Pöppel, by Paul Fraisse, William Stern, you will find the sentence, it is an integrated or holistic or like a gestalt, something what is really integrated in itself. So, a few words about this integration. According to my studies, integration is not in the sense that it is from the very beginning holistic. Imagine that you have this. Yesterday, somebody has spoken about Rhapsody, our Italian colleagues. Yeah. So imagine you have a mixture of fruits on the table, and now you put part of the fruits between two borders, and all fruits that are between two borders make this a kind of separation from all other fruits. That is a kind of integration we have. So this is integration which is said by appearance of the borders. The borders, where they appear, they predefine what will be included in this integrated part. So the border of subject to present time is shaped through the appearance of transitive part in stream of consciousness, and this appearance causes the integration. I have asked also in the second and the third study, mostly in the third study with the Swiss subjects, the question in the introspection, which point to quite interesting effects, so-called sluice effect. Yeah, what does it mean? Look, that is our flow of consciousness. That is A element, or intention driven to the world, our body of subject to present time. So this aboutness of our consciousness. That is not very interesting for us. And that is our border of subject to present time. Actually, if you look inside of the border, it is quite complicated build, but I'm skipping now the internal structure of the border. And then you have again the next subject to present time, next A element. So you have not just border subject to present time, you have transition from A to B, and you have transition from B to A. Look, what is, in my opinion, important? You are going through the world, you are observing things, you are remembering things, you are thinking about yourself. Here is actually a kind of distant self within A element given to you, yeah? And then this world of things ceases to exist. It is eliminated by your mind, just spontaneously, for a moment. And most of the subjects say that it is noticeable a border between A and B. So transition from A to B, they can notice. So they have a special feeling, okay, possibly soon my subject to present time will be ended. And they, at the very beginning of B element, have nothingness, this emptiness, in which arises in this self. And it is specific experience of self in the sense that it is a direct self. You just are. I mean, experience this direct self, yourself is just here. Nothing else is there. It arises out of this emptiness. And then, as soon as you starting to observe yourself, thinking and so on, as you extend being of yourself, you don't notice how you, like on the slippery slope, go to the world. You just again thrown to the world of things. So you don't notice how you land, in the world of things. You may say, okay, what is interesting in this phenomenon? Look, if this transition between A and B is a kind of crossing point, yeah, what do you have from modeling from entropic perspective? If you have here only one unit or one element in flow of consciousness, it is self. Your entropy is one, and then after you're thrown in the world of think, your entropy is rising. It means that possibly here at the border, the self plays the role, a kind of the role of constituent of time direction. At least from beginning, from this beginning, from this entropy which equals one, when only self in the flow of consciousness, when only self is in the flow of consciousness, entropy rises until the end of this next subject to present time. That's why I believe this immediate form of self is really a kind of constituent which predefines also the direction of flow of consciousness, which is then correlated with the direction of time flow. Once more, I'd like to stress that the self you are reflecting within the element is different from the self you meet at the border. Within the element, you have this distant form of selves. I call it distant form of selves, like this self are given as in form of narration. You as a brother, you as a scientist, I don't know, you as a spouse, you as a friend. You are observing yourself from the distance. You are observing yourself always from this initial self, I assume. That is, in my opinion, essential difference between the self you experience at the border of subject to present time and within the body of subject to present time. So, but I can't hear exactly. But okay, I'm coming to the end almost. So back to our question: what is subject to present time? So, the definition I believe, in phenomenological and psychological terms, subject to present time is a segment of stream of consciousness between two sequential perceived transitive elements. And based on this definition, we may provide answer on the, about duration subject to present time. It's just a number of physical units of time between appearance of two transitive elements of consciousness. Yeah, okay, I believe I have to. Just about the numbers. So the duration subject to present time can be really quite different from let's say a third of second up to 300 seconds. But in most of the cases between 1 second and 60 seconds. Also, it's Ukrainian subjects almost the same. For Swiss subjects, I'm skipping about experts. What is interesting that in the instruction, do you remember, I have not given a clear criteria when to press the button. So the criteria was generated from internally, from inside. And then you can take every subject to present time as a kind of state of cognitive system, a description of a state. So we have this continuity or this the whole array of measured durations. And what did we find is that every next duration subject to present time is a function of previous duration. So we have this array of ti, where I is from 1 till n is the number of measurements. Then we split this array in two sub-arrays, like one sub-array is, okay, it's like 36 minutes or more. Subarray 1 is from T1 till Tn minus 1. And then we have the same array, array with the same length, but from T2 till Tn. So in fact, you see, we can correlate here T1 and T2, T2 and T3, T3 and T4, Tn minus 1 and Tn. So we will examine whether there is a connectedness between previous and the next duration of subject to present time. Just look at the data. I will not show you whole data because time is almost over, but that is the data for Ukrainian sample. Correlation coefficient is about 8.00. 33 subjects, more than 3,000 individual measures. But let us stress few points. Despite that our subjects reported that the border of subject to present time appears spontaneously in their mind, they don't able to predict when the subject to present will end. I mean, at the beginning, they press the button, they begin new segment of subject to present time, and they don't know when it will be ended. And then they press the button at the end, and what do we find here, or what do we see here? High correlation. So the question is, or one may ask, whether the end of subject to present time is somehow recorded in the cognitive system, in the brain. Possibly you have heard in the morning about the role of insula. Insula as a part of brain which collect information about our different needs and so on and so on. So I don't know whether it is insula. So I have no data. Possibly somebody else would answer this question. Possibly we should follow Antonio Damasio and look somewhere deeper in the brain. But of course, it will be not the cortex, but it should be a kind of a subsystem in the brain which, for a very brief moment, interrupts supply of external information from the world. That's what we have at the end of a substantive element, and let the brain to be just with itself. And I don't know how, I don't know in which way brain does it, but it spontaneously produces this impulse that returns cognitive system to itself. And so arises this the primary experience of being self. I have no answer about what in the brain produces this primary kind of self. As I already told you, the subject to present time is a segment of consciousness which is placed between two consecutive transitive parts of experience, and the border is a transitive element of consciousness, and the body of subject to present time is substantive element of consciousness. And what is important for me is that at every border of subject to present time, a person returns to herself, to this the most direct, immediate experience of self. That's I believe all for today. Thank you very much for your attention. Vielen Dank für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit.